Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About the Deep Stuff, the show where we get into the shit that matters. No small talk, no surface level nonsense. Today I'm joined by science fiction and horror director Patrick Devaney, and we're digging into how art reflects the world around us, especially when it's making social commentary, getting political, or holding up a mirror to the times. And I know recently these days I've seen a lot of taboo about like how people don't want art to be political, but I feel like they kind of forget like the social commentary that's always been, especially like sci-fi and genres like that. Like with Star Wars, which I guess is more sci-fi fantasy than like science fiction. The original Star Wars, George Lucas even said that the Rebels were based off like the Viet Cong, and the Empire was like he based that off the American Empire during the Vietnam War.
Right.
So like that's why it's funny when you see people now saying like, "Oh, this is I don't want any politics in the Star Wars," because it's always been political. And whether it's aliens, zombies, fascist empires, or time travel, we're breaking down how genre storytelling goes way deeper than people give it credit for. So thanks for coming on, Patrick. I'll let you introduce yourself, and maybe you could go. I know I said horror and sci-fi director. Maybe you could elaborate on that and just your thoughts on this topic. Because
thank you, man. It's nice to be here. Yeah, it's funny how often I'm hearing people saying the same kind of thing. Like they don't want to see, they don't want to see politics and current events in their media. They don't want to deal with it. Mostly what I hear from people saying that are the people that are realizing that later in life they're identifying more with the empire. And maybe they're not too comfortable with that. So it's like, yeah, it was cool when we were kids and it was like, good guys and bad guys. And now my choices are resembling a lot of the things we're seeing in like shows like Andor and things like that. It's like, oh yeah, maybe I'm on the wrong side of this. Oh, let's not talk about it. It should be fun. Pew pew lasers and that's something I've been noticing a lot of as of the last couple of years. But yeah, my name is Patrick. I'm a writer and director of mostly science fiction right now. I cut my teeth in horror. I started a series called Zombie Hunter City of the Dead, which was the first zombie-based TV series on the air. And I went kind of rapidly into science fiction from that because that's my first true love, growing up with Space 1999 and things like Star Wars and Star Trek and all that kind of good stuff. And I wanted to emulate that kind of thing, so I wanted to have that more in my life, and that's why I started just focusing primarily on science fiction. And I do I write my own films as well, so I do infuse current events and important topics into them. I've dealt with forced migrations, I've dealt with racism, I've dealt with sexism, I've dealt with worlds where emotions weren't allowed, suppression by the government, suppression by peers and society in general. And I like to make commentaries about that. I did a film recently, a couple of years ago, called Identity Check, which was about buying and selling a person's entire identity as a human being, and how when you get to a certain level in your billionairedom, perhaps this is something you could consider doing. So, which is a horrifying idea, but it's something we explored in that film. And that's the kind of thing that I like to do too. Star Trek was always perfect for that. It was a wonderful, wonderful place to have that kind of thing. The Twilight Zone, the original Twilight Zone handled that. Science fiction in general has always been a mirror to who we are. And
Twilight Zone and Star Trek were very controversial for the times. Like I know Rod Sterling tackled like racism and like authoritarianism and a lot of those themes.
Yeah, he had one episode that was banned from television forever with George Takei, about he's this young Japanese guy who shows up at a guy's house, and this guy was a real racist from World War II soldier, and he was really really a horrible person. And then it dealt with the racism between these two men, how they both really felt about each other, and it was so on the mark that they banned it from the syndication when they spread it out. They didn't pick that one up. They didn't touch that. And I was maybe 50 years old before I saw that episode, But yeah, so that's something that even early on they were doing that when it was not going to be allowed on television.
Yeah, and Star Trek, I think, had the first televised interracial kiss.
Yep,
I think, with Spock and the other woman. I
it
forget.
was with between Kirk and Uhura.
Oh, Kirk and Uhura.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and they and that was a huge thing, and that almost got them canceled. The networks were like, you can't show this, and the idea was that since it's family programming, you can't show that. It's like that was considered anti-family program.
Yeah.
Like it's absolutely amazing. Yeah, but that's the world we were at and the world we may be heading back into. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like the reactions to those kind of things haven't changed much, or at least now it's because people, they call anything that's like has like any kind of change from the status quo, it's like called woke or um, something like that. And I guess like sometimes there are some films that are like they're doing it more for marketing, like trying to check certain boxes and stuff. But then even though when there's like genuine like reason for there to be a person of color, then sometimes these people just like attack the film just because of that. Like, and they say it's propaganda, it's woke already without even knowing what it's about. But Andor did pretty good because I think like it was focusing more on the story first, and then these people and like their other identities and stuff was like they were seen as like full fledged characters first.
Right.
I think is what it did right, because like sometimes they do try to just pander or check a box, and it's not really like authentic uh, representation or stuff like that.
It can be. I mean, it all depends where the story goes. Andor is a perfect example. They have a wide variety of characters, a wide variety of things. They never really push too hard on any topic, but it's superior writing, regardless of genre. That's one of the best things I've seen in television in 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just wonderful writing. But then you have other science fiction outlets that, they do kind of push everything into one grouping where, you know, I don't know if they do it so much to like you said, check off boxes. I think that there are a lot of public relations firms and a lot of people that do want to do that, and I think that makes story suffer. But I think that but in general, if it's making someone feel uncomfortable, it's doing its job.
Yeah.
It really does. If art makes you uncomfortable, it's doing its job. And there's the reason why there's so much of these things now is because the same thing we were just talking about with the first interracial kiss. It wasn't allowed on television. So it's not like it's suddenly everything's here and it's being rammed down people's throats and everything has to be this, everything has to be that. It's like, no, it's just that everything isn't being discluded anymore. And therefore that's making a lot of people very uncomfortable because it's like, yeah, I can accept you as long as I don't have to see you. It's like, that's not acceptance. That's just segregation. And you're just trying to put a smile on it.
Yeah, because like it's like anything, no matter what, even if it's just like even if it fits the story and there's people of color, like even if it makes like Dune, I don't like there was all these people saying, oh, that's woke because like what did they think the people on Arrakis would look like in a desert? Like of course they'd be darker people. Like,
well, our entire species comes from Africa,
yeah,
and it's like what, they didn't look like us.
yeah.
I mean, we're a later mutation that's just provable science.
Yeah, it's just the ways of adapting to the different climates and everything.
Right. Yeah, or just what mutation will work. A mutation like me in a desert is not going to work. Whoever had my coloring, if that was a quick mutation in a desert, they're not going to survive long enough to have more of me. It's just it's just that simple. That's how it works. But it's just later mutations where they work someplace else. But if Arrakis is supposed to be like they're there for what 8,000-9,000 years,
Yeah.
humans, and they brought they brought the worms there as aliens. It's like, okay, but what do you think they look like? Right?
Yeah.
you know. But everyone saw the David Lynch movie, and it was made at a time where you would have to have the vast majority of your cast be white because they wouldn't get the backing otherwise. You know, when they shot it in 1983.
Yeah, so that's sometimes I think a lot of these people didn't like read the book. Actually, they just looked at like the older movie and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, precisely. Yeah, and the book's awesome. The book is just so. I love the story. I want to see what they do with it
Yeah.
next.
Oh yeah, I've been reading through it recently. Actually, it's really good. Yeah.
Nice, nice. I never delved too deeply into the later ones, but I'd like to.
Oh, like
You
about
know.
about the children doing and all. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. How Paul starts realizing certain realities about himself, and you know what he's really created. You
yeah. And
know.
I know Star Wars took like a lot of inspiration from that, like with Anakin, like his turn to the dark side, and
Absolutely. I mean, there's no way George Lucas didn't read Dune. There's no
yeah,
way. You know, there's absolutely no way he didn't read that. You know, as someone who was so involved in film in the late '60s and early '70s and like studying it, it's like, yeah, they read Frank Herbert. They just did. You know, it's like saying he didn't read Lord of the Rings. You know, it's like, of course he did. You know, but
yeah. Because
yeah.
I actually I think there was even like a sub race of hobbits that had dark skin, if I'm not mistaken. I forget exactly what they were called.
Oh yeah, I forget.
Yeah,
Yeah, I forget. Yeah, it's been like 40 years since I read those books too.
the
That's something
Harfoots. The
I should probably.
Harfoots are darker skin. Yeah, and it's just interesting, like how some white nationalists took his work because, like, Tolkien was definitely someone of his time, but he, in some ways, he was also like he was very against like the Nazi ideology. I believe he also supported like he was against the apartheid in South Africa. Like he in some ways he was he was for social justice and like ahead of his time too. Like he definitely wasn't like a white national. Like he was a man of his time in some ways.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if he was against things like that. Like I think any rational person would be, you know, regardless of where you were brought up or what age you were. I think a rational person would say,
yeah,
yeah, this is at best unsustainable because it goes against nature, and at worst, well, what it is. So
yeah.
you
Plus,
know,
like I know he fought in World War I, and I almost feel like, and he was alive for World War II too. So I almost feel like the Mordor was kind of representative of like Germany and like World War II in a way, like going around creating like a world war. I know in some ways they say it like it was like a stereotype of like the Mongols too, though. But,
right? He blended everything. The man was brilliant.
you know,
And interesting, he never really left his home. Like he never like his hometown. Like he never
oh,
traveled anywhere. So he lived in his head. So all the things he imagined were all in his mind, and he was just this rich imagination. He never
yeah,
had to go anywhere because he lived in Middle Earth, you know.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean he wrote The Hobbit in the '30s, and then he wrote the rest of them in the '50s. So it's yeah, it makes sense. You know, you can't live in England and go through World War II and not understand what almost came to destroy you, what almost succeeded in destroying the planet. You know, so yeah, I'm positive. And I don't know the history of what he was thinking or what he did, but I am positive you can't live through that and not expand your worldview and your fictional writing to
yeah.
include those kinds of themes, even if it's not a direct correlation. There's no way you can do it. There's no
Yeah.
way.
Well,
There's
and
no way.
seeing the reality of war himself, like being in World War I, like
Right.
so,
Right. Right. Yeah, I've never served, but I've known a lot of people who have gone into combat, and not one of them wants to go back.
yeah, yeah. It's
I've never
always
met.
it's
Yeah,
always
I've
like
never
the
met. Yeah.
armchair people saying, "Rah, let's go to war, let's go to war." Like,
Yes, yes, it is. Every single person I know that's fought in a war has never said, "I can't wait for the next one."
yeah,
I mean, I can. It's not never been my experience. You know, I've never met a Vietnam vet that wants to go back. I never met anyone. Never met that person in my life to this
yeah.
day.
It's because we're so like in the U.S. we're kind of distanced from it, so like talking about it from a distance, people don't see the reality of it. They don't see,
Yeah, we're extremely insulated from the realities of it. That's why when we are attacked, on this soil. It's like it's almost unheard of. We can't relate to it. Everywhere else in the world pretty much can, but
Yeah.
we don't understand it. That's how safe and insulated we are, for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah, that's why we have like a memorial of it and everything 9/11. But like
Yeah,
other places they have that like every day. So yeah,
yeah,
so,
yeah. So, yep.
yeah. And yeah, I feel like, do you feel like art, like there's a duty to kind of question times, or like reflect the times with art? I mean, I know there's not like one rule fits all, but like I think in
Right.
general, like art is the place to kind of make you question things and look outside the norms of the society and all that.
Yeah, I don't like telling other artists what they should be doing, how they should be creating. I, I there are people who purposely pull away from that, and I understand why. But I think you kind of miss out. I think you do yourself a disservice if you don't at least try to explore some part of it. If you're living in a certain time and you don't explore that in your art, whether it's painting or sculpture or dance or writing or music or whatever it is, if you're not exploring the world around you and not reflecting it back and maybe giving your opinion of it, it's like you're kind of missing out. Not a requirement, but you're kind of missing out. And I encourage anyone in any kind of creative endeavor, look at the world around you, speak your truth to it, especially if you're speaking truth to power. I mean, speak and show what you feel and show why you feel it.
You know, and I don't. This isn't necessarily a spoiler for Andor, but what you said earlier kind of got me thinking about the character Cyril, because he kind of represents like the average person who kind of is just conditioned and thinks everything about his society is good and doesn't question things. Like
Right.
he wasn't necessarily evil from the start, but he was just kind of indoctrinated into this: the empire's good and what they're doing is right. But then the end, when he sees something horrific they do, then he's disillusioned. He's like, "Oh, this is his whole like world falls apart." And
He's a suit. I had this discussion with other people about like what Cyril represents, and again, not to go into spoilers and things, but Cyril isn't evil.
no,
Cyril is the ultimate patriot. Cyril loves the empire. He loves the order of it. He loves the force of it, of going and creating order, because he was controlled from day one by the mother character, and and that was such an allure to him. The things he didn't have in his life. Wow, I can go out and be a part of something because she's told me I'm going to be nothing
mm-hmm.
without her and without someone constantly taking care of me. But look at what these people are doing. They're fighting for themselves and they're being assertive and they're doing these things. And that is like, red, white, and blue. He's seen it through a flag his whole life. And but he's also intelligent enough to know that when he does see it, when he finally does see it,
yeah,
it is, you can see, and the actor is brilliant. I think
yeah, he
him,
really showed
him,
it.
him, him and the woman that plays Dedra, the two of them together are just, they're
Yeah,
phenomenal actors.
yeah,
And
and Dedra was the same way. Like she had no like family or anything, and then but the empire
right,
kind of gave her meaning. Like yeah,
right, yeah, she had no choice.
yeah,
I mean, she was programmed from like the age of like 5 or 6 to be what she was, and knew no other. If all you're told is one thing from the time you're 5 years old, and you never see another version of truth.
yeah,
When you're 40, you have 35 years of absolutely knowing the truth, you
yeah,
know? And even when but it also affects her too, as you see later in the show. But it's like, but the serial character, I mean, I think it was performed brilliantly and it was written beautifully. And it was just such a wondrous thing to see, because it would be so easy just to make them evil and it's like, and they're not that. They're just people. To make them like superior evil and supernatural evil and stereotypical like that, it's like, no, they just show them as regular people with a lot of problems, the hell of a lot of problems. And again, that always goes back to the basis is superior writing,
Yeah.
and then given to the hands of a director who can mold it, and in this case, they're the same person, and actors who can bring those people to life in their own way. That's even more than what's on the written page.
Yeah,
And that's what I love when I do films. I love seeing people do that, taking my scripts and going.
it kind
That's
of
why
becomes their own, like the character becomes their own kind of.
it has to. It has to. And people have asked me, like, why I've worked with the same kind of people, the same people in so many different projects, and I'm just like, because I see them. I see them, and I'm just like, I know exactly what they'll do with this one thing or that thing, or I know exactly what they're going to do with it, and then they give me something even more. Just a completely other.
Yeah.
You know, Perfect example are this someone we both know, for Wiley Weeks.
A
You
while
know,
weeks. Yeah, I believe he. If I thought I saw. Is he still
yeah,
around?
no, he just passed away a couple months ago,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and he was in my last film, and I just loved working with him, and I'm glad I did when I had the opportunity. I'm glad that I did when I had the chance to do that because yeah, he went to a film festival in Texas and showed our film, and 2 nights later he was gone.
Oh wow.
And he was a riot of a man.
That
But
was an identity check, or
that was for another film I did called Dad's New Roommate. So Dad's New Roommate is 80-year-old Vietnam vet who comes back from the war, and he's kind of grizzled and he's kind of pissed off, and he winds up having 3 children, and the children, he's raising them with his wife, they soften him and they make him more politically correct, and they make him more accepting of other people and different cultures and races and things like that. And his wife passes away, and he says, well, I'm to use the word, I'm woke, so I know I'm going to do what all the kids are doing now. And he goes on Craigslist to get a roommate.
hmm.
So the film is the family coming back to his house, and the film is the intervention of them trying to talk him out of it.
Oh, so it wasn't a sci-fi movie you did then?
It is a sci-fi movie.
Oh, it is. Oh,
That's
okay.
mostly what I write. It's a sci-fi, it's a sci-fi dramedy, we've been calling it, because it's got a lot of comedic elements. It's got a sci-fi, it's got a drama base, but it's also got science fiction elements that become more apparent as the film goes on. But so the family comes back, and they're trying to talk him out of going ahead with this, and they're right and he's right, and everyone is there because they love each other, but they're also not communicating, they're not listening, and finally when they start to, that's when just things get a little out of control. But
Yeah, and it's also commentary, like through art. It's like a way to get people to listen when they wouldn't otherwise listen. Because and look at the Rod Sterling, like the reason why he told so many things about the times and everything through um, like the sci-fi and everything was because it was a way to bypass the censorship and like show these things without.
Yep.
Yeah, and there was like the Academy, the class of '99, were like two about the critique the authoritarian regime, and there was a lot. I remember there was also the one about like the eye of the beholder, like where
Oh
like
yeah.
yeah, where they're like, oh, she has this. They have her face covered, and like, oh, she has they keep saying she has a hideous face and stuff, but then at the end you see that all the people around her are these pig people, and like she's like a like a classical
Right.
beauty and all that, and then it was like, oh, the beauty's the eye of the beholder, which was not really like a political comedy, but like a social commentary.
Absolutely, social commentary. Yeah, yeah, and the reactions are great. The first time I saw that, I was a little kid. I remember just being like, "What's wrong with her?" And all of a sudden you see everybody else,
Yeah,
and that there's one nurse that sees her, just like she gasps, like she recoils from her, like she's so hideous to them. It's like, and in their world, like, well, you have to go and live with these other people now because like you live with your own kind because you're too upsetting to the perfect people. You're too upsetting to us. And yeah, that's a wonderful thing. How they got that on TV, I don't know at the time, because that's even something today, you know. like people cutting themselves to look like Kylie Jenner. It's like, what the hell is that about? But it's the same. It's the same principle. 60 years later, it's still the same principle. Who are you, and what do you think beauty is?
Yeah, like having to live up to an ideal, like on the TV and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, Sterling was a master of that. He'd written so many of those scripts, and Richard Matheson wrote scripts in them, and just these wonderful writers that had these great ideas, and that was a great place for them to all come together. I don't know if there's something like, maybe Black Mirror today is something like that, but like anthologies are like, to write those kinds of stories and get them produced. I mean, we need that again. We don't necessarily have to call it Twilight Zone again, because they keep restarting that and it keeps not really working as well.
Yeah. Well,
But
Black
something
Mirror in
did.
some ways is kind of like the modern Twilight
Yeah.
Zone. It's had,
Yep.
I mean, like the earlier seasons at least. Like I know, the later ones I kind of fell off, but like the earlier ones,
Right.
like that one where they're all kind of like in this thing where they're running on the bikes, and then the only way to get out was through this game show, and then the one guy tries to rebel, but then he ends up winning the game show thing that gets him out, and he becomes like a star that does that as an act, like, oh, he's rebelling against us. So it's like they even took his rebellion and marketed it.
Right.
Like from what
Right.
I remember of that episode, yeah,
I haven't seen that one. That sounds great.
yeah, it was from the guy from Get Out. It was one of the early ones.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
Cool.
and Jordan Peele was another one I wanted to mention because I know he's used horror to make a lot of social commentary, like with Get Out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, yeah, that's a disturbing film. But like there's a movie out right now called Black Eyed Susan, and if you have a chance to see it, it's a rough watch. I'm telling you right now, it's a rough movie. And Scooter McCrae directed it. I saw it in a festival in upstate New York. It's called Black Eyed Susan, and it's about a company that is making AI based robots for people who have violent tendencies.
So like they can take out their violence on the robot.
It becomes much more than that, and it's deeply disturbing. But I think that if we had that technology, that's precisely what would be going on in the
Yeah,
world today. I think absolutely that would be going on.
and that was another thing that Black Mirror explored was like, does the like AI, does it have feelings or consciousness? Because I remember there was this one episode where this gamer programmer guy, like he takes these people from work, his coworkers, and made like AI versions of them just so he could torture them in like a virtual world.
Damn.
But they were like coded things, like they weren't real, but they were code. But they could at the same time they could feel and so it's like even though they were artificial, like was that still like harming a being? Like could AI ever get to that where it's conscious or would it?
I don't know. I don't. I think that's a whole other question. What is sentience? I explore that in a couple of my different scripts, and I love the idea of what actually is artificial intelligence, and what are you, what at what point do rights come into play?
Yeah.
This was explored in Star Trek. It was explored in my film Impervia. There was, I love the idea of this. I have a script out right now that I'm trying to get produced, and it goes into this. It goes into this, and also the idea of, well, once you have this AI, what if it's not who you think it was? Like, if you have a kid, you can raise your kid to be a certain way, but the
Yeah.
kid's always going to be the kid. It's always going to be an individual person.
So
They
like
may
what if
not
the
turn
AI
out the way you
rebels
want,
or like it doesn't, like what if it goes against us?
or or what if it's just not who you think it is?
Yeah.
You know, like, what if you're making one thing, it's something else, and it's not through your programming, because it's just how it is,
So it ends up doing something like you don't expect, like acting in a way you don't expect, or
or feeling a way you don't expect,
yeah.
or thinking a way you don't expect, or it's like, this is not what we programmed. It's like, yeah, but regardless what you programmed, this is what this is now. So what do you do? if you can erase it, but if it's a program, you can erase it. But then what are you really doing? You know,
Yeah.
what is this thing here? When I was in college, I had a philosophy course about artificial. This is a long time ago, the beginnings of artificial intelligence, and I brought up the episode of Star Trek where Data, who's an android, as a sentient android, makes a sentient daughter android. So now we have an artificial intelligence with feelings making an artificial intelligence with feelings.
That's in Next Generation, right? The one
Yeah.
with Picard
Yeah.
and Patrick Stewart, right there.
Yes. Yes. And it doesn't work, and there's too many complex problems. So like his daughter is trying to work out who she is in the universe, being 3 days old, and he is not a human either, so he doesn't really know, and he can't tell her.
But he
But they're
has self
both quite
awareness. I guess
aware.
is. I
Yeah.
guess that's the only time like it would be. It would seem like it would be ethical to give AI rights if they were able to be conscious and self aware. Otherwise,
Right,
yeah,
right. Sentience is the key to it. It's the
yeah,
it's the most important thing, and I think that beyond biological life, that's what really, because then they can tell you, you know, like cats and dogs and other animals, they may be self aware. We're not aware of them being self aware.
yeah.
Like if I've had a couple of cats in my life, and I don't think they know that one day they're going to die. I don't know if they know that. If they are, they've never communicated that to us. Maybe they tell each
They,
other.
they don't have the same fear of death. At least it seems that humans do. Yeah,
No, I mean they have survival instinct, but they don't. But the idea of like worrying about
yeah,
when they're going to happen, that's a concept that comes with self awareness.
yeah.
And I don't know if there's living things out there except for us that we know of on this planet, at least, that
Yeah,
know that.
I believe like dolphins. When I looked into it, I might have said like I think like they recognize themselves like in reflections and stuff like that. I know
Yeah.
dolphins are apparently like very smart in that way. But
There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of animals that are like that. I mean, I've spent a tiny bit of time around octopuses, and I'm like, they're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. But I don't know if they know like life is finite, or
yeah,
have thoughts on that. Like they like those dolphins saying, "Hey, I'm really glad that I got to see myself because I am like 12 now, and I'm not going to really live, another 30, 40 years. So, however how long dolphins live."
yeah. How would they? They wouldn't know like how long they're gonna live or yeah,
Right, right. Like that kind of thing. Like I don't know if there's some kind of instinct level thing telling them certain things. They'll know when they're in pain. They know when they're hurting. They know when they feel sick, but they don't. It's kind of like, yeah, this is a weird sensation, but of course it's going to go on because I'll live forever. Because everything lives forever. It's like, okay, but I don't know. I don't know. And if you have that with an artificial intelligence that could conceivably be immortal as long as it has power, as long as it can stay, in charge somehow, then you really have made a self-aware immortal being, which is also a problem. And they explored that in Blade Runner. That's where they gave them, they had incept dates and they had death dates, and
yeah.
that's
And
the
then they
whole
had
point,
they weren't allowed to live past a certain date or
right?
yeah.
Because they can live forever.
And then I like that robot that android's like monologue at the end where he talks about like all the stuff he got to see, but now it's like gone. Like he talked about like the short brief life he had and like everything he
Yeah,
saw and experienced. And because
yeah.
I think that's like a famous monologue he has at the end.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
tears in the
Rutger
rain,
Hauer.
like tears in the
Yeah,
rain.
yeah. All these memories will be lost in time. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's yeah. That's a brilliant thing. It was written one way, and he improvised a lot of that. So that was the actor taking the script and changing it into something beautiful,
yeah.
absolutely beautiful. And yeah, I've actually got a picture on my wall right here of him, and he wrote that on my picture. Of all things, yeah, I'm looking at him right now. But yeah, that's a great scene at the end because then it's like, well, what was he?
Yeah. And Blade Runner is based off the Philip K. Dick book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep,
Yep.
which pretty much in the title, that's all about are androids self aware?
Right.
Like, are they?
Right.
And the book, from what I remember, was a little more silly, I think, than the movie. It was a little had more of like a, because like they were all like the electric sheep was like the symbol of status. Like that you moved up if you were able to buy like electric animals or electric. Yeah,
Yeah, it was definitely not the film noir like detective kind of
yeah,
thing. Like it's that was a later creation, and they did the narration on top of it and everything else. But yeah, but
he's definitely an important one though to mention. Like as far as like social political commentary with like through sci-fi and fiction.
right.
Philip K. Dick, because like I know he did a lot of his stuff covered. Minority Report, I think, was originally his too, and yeah, and
There's
Man in the High Castle. That was like if the Germans and Japanese won World War II. There's an alternate, yeah,
That's interesting. Then we're getting into Man in the High Castle stuff, and
yeah,
that's a whole other. Oof.
yeah,
If you've ever seen that series, watch that series. That's
yeah.
oof, that's up there. Um, who I really love, if you never read her, is Ursula Le Guin.
Okay,
She has a number of different books. My favorite is a thing called The Lathe of Heaven. It's a guy that it's a futuristic world where everything is kind of run by the state. So he goes to a state approved psychiatrist because he's having these bad dreams, and he goes to the psychiatrist and says, "Listen, the problem is that what I dream actually happens." So the guy's like, "Okay, shit, he's far gone." So he schedules him for more therapy sessions, and then it turns out that he's telling the truth.
hmm.
So if you have a knowledge of someone that can bend reality, do you help them or do you exploit them?
Yeah.
And that's where the story dives into what the next steps of this thing is. Once you could do a little bit, can you do a little more? Can you do a little more? You
Yeah.
know?
So basically,
And
like it could be used for good or bad. It's like how you use it.
yeah, yeah, or how you manipulate the person who has the ability when you don't have it yourself.
Hmm.
So it's a whole other thing. I was like 11 or 12 when I saw the movie version, and I read. Then I went and read the book, and the book's even more complex. But she was a wonderful writer. She died a couple of years ago. She was an incredible writer, um, and she had another book that dealt with a futuristic version of the UN sending delegates to different planets, and one delegate winds up on a planet where everyone is gender neutral except for certain times when they can either be male or female.
Hmm.
So you can be both in your life. So if you want to raise a family, you spend most of your time being neither.
So was that a way of exploring, I guess, kind of like gender, being fluid, and that whole
Mm-hmm.
idea?
Yeah, I think at the time she wrote it in the late '60s, so I think she was mostly talking about gender equality, and I think that the way she did that was saying, what if there was a blank slate and everyone could be either one,
Yeah,
right? Would we still have the same kind of gender inequality? But it's also, and now it's more of a, she was really seeing some other kind of future where this would be transsexual rights would be a actual debated thing, and it's
yeah.
like, well,
Long before it was really talked about or no. Yeah,
it was hidden, it wasn't talked about. There was like Christine Jorgensen, everyone knew about that, and don't talk about it. And meanwhile, transsexual people have been in human society forever, and
yeah.
this is known
And,
about
and that,
since
who
the
knows? That could
beginning of
even
history.
we don't know if she could have been had something she was dealing with that was expressed through that. Who knows?
Very well could have been,
Yeah,
very well could have been, or at least something that she was concerned about,
yeah,
for others. But however it manifested, but yeah, and in that world, it's so interesting because there are people who then decide they're going to pick one sex and stay that sex forever, and they're looked upon as perverts
really.
because they chose one over the other, and
And what was
that's
the name of this
unnatural.
again? I want
It's called The Left Hand of Darkness,
to. Okay, right.
and and Ursula Le Guin is the author. That book changed me. Like I read that and I was like, I've never read anything written like this, And I'm like, this is amazing. I always knew she was good, but I was like, I finally read that one. I'm like, holy hell, you know. But she was writing about these issues in 1969. So
Yeah.
it's like so talk about sci-fi writers seeing the future.
Yeah. And and I was just thinking like how people take things and kind of apply them to their own bias sometimes, even if it doesn't fit. Like because 1984, George Orwell, I think his messaging in that was pretty clear. But like sometimes I see like the far right and people that I don't think Orwell would have supported. Like they keep saying, "Oh, that's Orwellian. This is Orwellian." They say, but they kind of hijack it for to fit their own bias. Even though Orwell was like a socialist, I think his whole life. Even though he didn't like Stalinism, which is more what 1984 was a critique of, but he was like very anti-fascist too. So,
Extremely,
yeah,
extremely so, extremely so. Because he was around through a lot of it. He was in Spain during a lot of it.
yeah,
He saw these things, and I mean, all you have to do is read 84, or you read Animal Farm. I mean, Animal Farm is a perfect example of what this is, and about absolute power corrupting
yeah.
absolutely.
Well, and Animal
And
Farm was also showing like how whatever system takes over then can just be as just corrupt, even if it seems like it's the solution to that.
yep,
Yeah,
yep, and the erasure of history. The animals get together and they write the rules
yeah,
on the side of the barn. But then the ones in charge, they start writing. The different ones say it was always like that, and
yeah,
they get enough people to say, yeah, it was always like that. We didn't have those other rules. It was these rules all along. It's like,
yeah.
okay,
Well,
yeah,
and that's like someone like who's pretty known today that's saying like, oh, he doesn't want anything that's critical of American history in schools, or he wants to change. He wants it to be pro-American
yeah, yeah.
curriculum and all that.
Pro very white American
Yeah,
with white lies instead of history. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. But yeah, so that no one's uncomfortable. No one's ever uncomfortable. It's like, okay, well, that's not history. That's fairy. That's fairy tales. That's not. You know, that's a complete fabrication.
yeah. And that's
You
like
know.
how what these people say, like the saying the apolitical, like wanting to apolitical art, or like I mean, really, it's just like when it's politics that they see that they're against, like where they see themselves being criticized, or they see a group being represented or empathized with that they don't approve of.
Right.
Yeah, but they don't know, like they forget, they're just looking at history the way they want to look at it. But there's always been art like this challenge
Absolutely.
these things in the
Absolutely
status
there
quo.
is. Absolutely there is. And there always should be. I can't say there always will be because I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone 100 years from now. But there always should be. There always should be a voice saying, "No, I disagree, and this is why," and show your truth. That's what art has to be.
Yeah,
More
I feel like
more
artists
now
see
than
the
ever.
world a different way a lot usually, because usually it's not like the average like normie isn't gonna like create like a art. Like usually somebody who kind of sees the world a little bit differently, so they're able to look outside like the typical biases and stuff and help. Like then it's like a mirror
Right.
way. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean it is a different mentality of thinking. Like like everyone has their own problems, and everyone has their own shortcomings and strengths, things like that. People ask me a lot, like, "What do you do when you're bored?" And I have to be honest, I haven't experienced boredom in almost a quarter of a century. Like I haven't spent a moment's bored in the last like maybe 25 years, because there's always something to think about. There's always something to create. There's always something to contemplate or
yeah.
rethink, or or,
And
or
you have multiple
write.
outlets too, right? Like you acting behind the camera and music. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I've been something you and I have talked about before. I'm scoring my own films now, and that's something that I was reluctant to do. So I hadn't been a musician in a very long time. I was reluctant to do it, but now that I'm going back into that, it's like, yeah, like in my last film, I scored myself. And my next one that we're shooting in February, I'm going to be scoring that as well. You know, in addition to another film that I'm shooting for someone else, that I'm directing for someone else in September. So I'm going to be scoring that. As far as I know, I am. But yes, with multiple things, you know, I mean, like I am an actor and I am a director and I write and I'm a script consultant and I do a lot of things and in my day to day life I count, you know, money for billionaires and multimillionaires and you know, so it's like yeah, there's always something to think about. There's always I don't understand like how people can be bored because it's like there's always something like pick up a pencil and draw something for 3 hours. Like you're not going to be bored. You know, you may not like what you did. It may not. You may not be able to sell it, but you created something, and that way you're not thinking about what the hell to do next, or you know. But yeah, I can't even remember what that feeling is like. You know, but it does take a different kind of mentality of it, and I kind of fell into it. It's not something I like said. You know, I'm never going to be bored again. It's like I kind of fell into that. You know, I'm just
Yeah.
like, well, I like how this is going. This works. This works for me. So
Yeah. I don't think I don't think I've like I feel like that's most creative people like me. I have different outlets, but I don't think I've ever met a creative person that doesn't have like more than one outlet, even if one outlet's like their main focus. Like even David Lynch, I just thought of like he passed away. I think it was like a year ago now or so. But like he was mainly a movie maker, but before that he was an artist.
yeah,
Like doing sculptures, and he did music too. Like on the he released an album, I think uh, like maybe 10 years ago or so, like before he died. Yeah, like he did
yeah.
music
I
too.
mean,
Yeah,
it's and the disciplines are all the same. Like you know, you can't be you know the best actor and the best musician, the best sculptor and the best you know world
yeah,
traveler, and you know, but those disciplines tie into each other. They do complement each other. You know, if you can write, I'm not saying if you write poetry, it's like you know, like what's every Bruce Springsteen song? It's poetry.
yeah,
You can just read his lyric sheets and not even think about the songs, and it's just beautiful poetry.
yeah.
You
Well, what
know
was that monologue at the end of Blade Runner was poetry. Yeah,
that came from that came from partially from writers
yeah,
and partially from the mind of that wonderful actor. You know, who's you know just was a I got to meet him that one time. What a wonderful, nice man. You know,
yeah,
genuine guy.
yeah.
You know, and that was yeah exactly.
Yeah. So I guess we talked a bit about like horror and sci-fi being like a safe zone because like you know how it was safe for like Rob Sterling during the time when there's more censorship. Um, and also, I guess some people took Dawn of the Dead to be like a take on consumerism,
Oh,
like the
absolutely,
zombies too. Like, um,
absolutely.
I guess I'm trying to think. Like, I guess does it ever? Because I know it could be like good allegories, but like, does it? Do you think it changed minds, art, or is it just more to like reflect the times, or do you think it does it make any kind of change in the world? I know we talked about how art can reflect, but like can art also like make a change in some way? Do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I'll give you. There's so many examples. I can give you one. If you've ever read, I mean, people have seen like this TV series of The Stand, or they've seen like the recent series of The Stand.
Oh, years ago, yeah, yeah,
You know, the book is over 1,400 pages long,
yeah.
and to sit and read the whole, I mean, I've read the whole damn thing, and I've done the Dark Tower series from book one, all the associated ones. So when you do it in order, it's over 15,000 pages. It took me 4 years, three and a half, 4 years to do it. But I went in order the way he was like he wanted them to be told. But you read the stand, and it's like, what if you don't have a strong feeling about what side you'd be on in that situation, then you just wasted 1,400 pages. Like if that doesn't change you, that story, and say, yeah, this is who I am, and this is what I can see, and I get what was trying to be done here. Like if that doesn't make you feel something, it's like I don't know what else to tell you. But there are many things, you know. A great example of art that is based in reality, but and I just talked about this in my script group. The Band of Brothers series. you watch that, and yes, it's Hollywoodized, and yes, it's changed from the real, but they also interview the real guys, and it is based on the things these people really did and really experienced. And if that doesn't give you an appreciation for what these young men went through, what these soldiers went through, I don't, I don't know what possibly could. Like I saw that series. I've watched it 5 times, and over the course of my life, I've watched it 5 times in completion. It changed me, and I had relatives that fought in that war, and I didn't fully understand, until I saw that. Now it's still my own understanding of it is based through a camera lens. I can't know what any of them did, but I can. But it definitely changed my perspective in certain ways and made me respect them even more. So it all comes down to the individual, but I think that art can absolutely, when it's reflected and shown back to you in a way that is digestible, like you said, when Sterling did that, like he said, well, I can't get this, if I make it a fictional and tell them it's fiction, they're going to put it on the TV, and people saw those things and they knew, there's a Twilight Zone with Jack Klugman, where he gets a notification. He's not a good guy. His character's a bad guy,
Yeah.
and he gets notification that his son was injured in a war, and he's reading this telegram, and and like, well, what's going on? He goes, my son, he's in some place called Vietnam, and he's dying, and I'm here. Like, what? How do you? What am I supposed to do with that? But I just love the idea that it was going on then, and it was just starting. A lot of people in America didn't hear about Vietnam yet. They didn't know about it. It was just some kind of weird policing thing that we're doing because it's communists and screw the communists,
Yeah.
and But
And then it evolved into like a massive protest. But I think the main thing was like seeing the footage. That's what got people enraged. Like, yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. Or when they saw the people coming back, and it's like there's no parade, there's no rah rah, we did it. It's they came back, and they're changed, and it's still going on, and they're sending more men, they're sending more teenagers, and that was a whole other thing too. But in the fictional world, it's like that's. I think a lot of people saw that Twilight Zone episode and said, "What the hell is Vietnam?" And I'm sure people watched that and thought they were making up like some fictional place.
yeah,
There wasn't someplace people talked about, but yeah. So I think that can definitely in the idea of like art influencing people.
yeah.
I remember being a kid watching that episode, thinking like, how didn't they know about Vietnam? And it's like, oh wait, yeah, that's right. This is the beginning of that. So he even in the fiction, he was able to put real terms and name them.
Yeah, he was
He
able
didn't,
to
he
kind of
didn't make up the
perceive what
name.
was, yeah.
Yeah, he said it. He said it, and that that pissed
Yeah.
a lot of people off.
Yeah, and that actually made me think of because like the way he foresaw like what that was turning into. It made me think of Kafka with the trial, like how he like I think all of his family was like killed in the Holocaust, but like he foresaw what was coming through the trial, like just like where like this kind of police state where he was guilty, but they never told him what for, and he didn't know what for, but then. Yeah, like from what I remember the story, like then he starts believing he is guilty because they keep telling him he is, even though they
Right,
never charged him with anything.
right, right, right. I was told from the day that I was born that 2,000 years ago there was a guy that died for me, and I'm responsible for his death. I was like 9 or 10 years old before I
Yeah,
started saying, "Wait a minute, I'm like 10. Like, how the hell did I do that?" You know, so I can understand. Like it was, I was literally told I was the reason that Jesus died, and I'm like, fucking hell, like what? Like I just want a bike. Like I
yeah.
didn't
Oh,
do
the
any wrong.
original sin and all that.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, oh yeah. And if I wasn't born a sinner, and I have my notebooks. Not to get into a crazy other
yeah.
rabbit hole.
But wait, so is that in Catholicism too, or is that just like
That's that's
evangelical?
well, that's all forms of Christianity. In my
Okay,
particular case, I was raised Roman Catholic.
okay,
So, Roman Catholic and Irish Catholic, and there is a difference. But I was both. So, but that's the thing. You're born a sinner until some guy comes and says a prayer and puts water over your head, and then you're clean from the sin. But you also are responsible for the killing the guy 2,000 years ago who had to die for your sin that was supposed to be washed away, but then it wasn't washed away. So now you put the water on your head, and then you're really, you really owe him your life now because you killed him. This is
Two
this,
thousand years ago.
2,000 years ago, and then you go to these gigantic, impressive temples, and you see images of a guy of a dead body tied up to a tree, and it's like, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere you look, and it's like, oh shit, he's dead over there, he's dead over here, and he's dead over here. And it's horrifying, and it terrifies you into saying, wow, this is all my fault, shit, you know. And then so there's a billion people on this planet that believe that. So if you're told that from day one, you won't believe anything. So if you're this poor bastard being told that he's
Yeah,
guilty, of course afterwards, and like, did I do it?
yeah. Kind of
Like
like
what
the
happens then?
yeah.
Yeah.
Made me think of the caste system a bit, like in India. I know, like I think that that's like related to past lives a bit, like untouchables. Like depending on when, like if you're born into a caste and it has to do with like something you did in a past life,
Isn't
from what
that
I understand
convenient?
of it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's very convenient. There's when they were finally putting the people the Khmer Rouge, the people in Cambodia who slaughtered like an enormous percentage of their population, just like their own Holocaust. When they were
right.
finally putting those people on trial, there was a pushback from the Buddhist community, and when they were asked, why, the leaders, why are you pushing back on this? They said, listen, it's not going to bring them back, and also, I mean, like, we all know that they deserve this because they did something that earned it in their previous life.
Well,
They did what? you know so that's a whole other thing, but yeah, exactly. It's very convenient to say I don't have to care about the poor, I don't have to care about the sick, because not only don't I have to care about them, but I'm not supposed to care about them because that's justice. So when I'm out spending all my money, I'm perfectly fine with that, and I'm seeing them starve because they should have done better the last time around.
yeah,
Like who uh, the genius, the evil genius that came up with that bullshit.
yeah.
Wow,
Yeah, and it's interesting how
wow.
spirituality can kind of go both ways, like depending on how you interpret it. It could be a very selfish thing, like it could be like, oh, like they were bad in a past life, or or even somebody could say their thinking was negative and they brought this on, or spirituality could be like, oh, I'm going to help them because they're, I've seen people who are religious and spiritual go both ways with that.
So have I.
Yeah,
So have I. I mean, I've known some devoutly Christian people who spend every day of their lives trying to be what they think Jesus wants them to be. I know like three of them, maybe three, maybe, and the vast majority are not that. So it's
yeah,
like somewhere along the line that grouping didn't. I'm not
yeah.
saying they're out there harming anyone, but I'm not saying, it's like this, just there's the disconnect there.
Yeah, but I think even
Strong
like
disconnect.
Pope Francis was a little more progressive. Like I remember he said something like, if you're an atheist and you're a good person, he didn't see a reason why you wouldn't go to heaven, which I know was like a big change for like the Catholic Church to say.
But he's also very careful.
Yeah,
Those guys are very careful because he didn't say this is what God told me.
no,
He's saying, that's how I feel about it, but the official teaching is, oh, no, you definitely, you atheists, you're burning in hell for the rest of your lives, burning in hell with the
yeah,
homosexuals and most
yeah.
women for being women, and yeah, so it's yeah.
So
Ugh,
that
yeah.
kind of relates to the to bring it back to like the artist, like working in the safe space, like what you just said about Pope Francis. Like he definitely challenged the status quo in some ways, but he did it like in the safe way that he could as the Pope in his position. Like so, like Rob Sterling did that by through sci-fi. and everything because he couldn't do it directly with
Right,
censorship and stuff like that.
right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's yeah, and that's also the mark of a good writer.
yeah,
He definitely was one. And yeah, I mean, just getting away with things. There's the famous story of a different kind of art. The Monkees back in the '60s. The TV show The Monkees. They said, listen, whatever you to the writers who actually wrote the music and everything, whatever you're doing, you cannot mention the war. You can't mention Vietnam. You can't talk about the conflict. So they wrote a song called "Last Train to Clarksville," which seems like it's like this guy is like missing his girlfriend. But he's missing his girlfriend because he's going off to be trained to be a soldier to go off to Vietnam. And the last line of the chorus is, "I don't know if I'm ever coming home." And they sold it as he hopes to see his girl again. It's like, yeah, because he's gonna get shot in Vietnam. And it was
So they
on the
used it as a way to
TV.
like criticize the war without
Right,
like openly.
right,
Yeah,
right. Without pointing the finger or anything, just the reality of here's a young guy who's given up his life and he has no idea if he's gonna see his friends and his family and his girl again. That's all. That's up in the air. But they disguised it as this little love story. It's a nice little happy little jingle.
yeah,
If you don't know the song, look it up. It's like you would never believe it's about Vietnam, but it is.
yeah. And with Andor, like I don't want to spoil too much because it's still like relatively new, but like
Yeah, I've,
uh,
I've, I've been like, mm,
yeah,
yeah,
but like he definitely I feel like pointed to some things going on in the world indirectly that he would have gotten more backlash for speaking about. Like he didn't admit that these were parallels to things going on, but they just obviously were. Like, and I think he did it in he was it was brilliant how it was handled too. But like there was definitely a lot of like parallels to current things going on in Andor. So
absolutely. And what I think is so cool about it is that it's never not Star Wars.
yeah,
Like no part of it, no matter how extreme they get with it, it was always still Star Wars. Like it wasn't just like the clothing or the setting; it was still like a Star Wars project. And that must have been so friggin' hard to balance that out. Like I can't to be able to walk that line and really tell your story, but still make it poignant to the actual history and the canon of what's been going on since 1977.
yeah,
Like to meld it into that and all those other properties too. They had to blend it into the
yeah.
cartoon series and the Rebel
And
series
it
and
enhances like the originals too, because like
yeah,
there's all this other context.
so much so,
Yeah,
so much so. And which is why now it's like I say, like an Andor, Rogue One, the original Star Wars. It's like put them all together, and it's like, yeah, that's the movie.
yeah,
Everything else is kind of really cool afterwards, but that was the movie,
yeah,
you know. But yeah, it's the parallels are too close. The propaganda wars.
yeah.
Um,
Dehumanizing that one group, the Gormans. I
yeah,
won't say too much
exactly.
about it, but like, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And they even say it like when they're having that one meeting, like those two PR guys, they're like, have you ever noticed like that they do seem like they're a little bit better than us. They always have this kind of attitude. It's like, have you noticed that like in the last 5 or 6 years? It's like, yeah, because we've been telling people that shit. you know, we've been making it very subtle. Hey, you know how they are. It's like, no, I
yeah,
don't. But if enough people hear it, eventually it becomes this normal thing. You
yeah.
know?
And it's just because like people can like see it like from the outside in a movie, but they can't always see it like in real time because I like propaganda like it takes a while I think of like really like hearing other perspectives and like do also like introspection and just like kind of deconditioning I guess is the word to really see how much propaganda affects you or like how certain things I used to think like oh that isn't anything that actually came from my experience that was just like a stereotype that was fed to me from like
Yeah,
the media that was just it takes a while to unlearn those things so people don't always see it
yeah,
right away and like I think I saw something like people always know the resistance is the good guys in the movie but they don't see it in reality.
they don't see it in reality. It's like yeah, the rebels. Oh, I'm back in the back. Oh, what do you mean? Oh, no, no, no. We we were told. It's like, okay, that's
Yeah.
great, but you do understand like what side you're actually on now. Like you spent your whole life watching this.
Yeah. And I think that's what like Cyril is like. He's kind of like the average person that thinks they're the good guy, but they're really buying the propaganda of the empire.
Yeah, they do that great with the mother character too. You know, again, not to give away too much, but when he's like, you know, she's like, oh, I know what's going on there, and he's like, I'm literally living on this planet. I'm telling you, it doesn't exist. And she's like, oh, you can't lie to me.
Yeah.
It's like, but I'm here. Like, I look out my window and I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. And she goes, no, I saw it on TV. It's happening. I know better. You can't fool me. It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
And she was like it's like a boomer kind of. I guess.
yeah, serious hardcore boomer. That was bad. But yeah. But that's a typical thing, you know. Like I've had people, I'm having perfectly normal conversation with them, and all of a sudden it's like it changes, and the conversation's like, well, you know how they are, and I'm like, what the hell do you mean? What the hell? No, I don't. You know.
Yeah.
Or I've often got that, you know, be a guy with tattoos and a shaved head. I mean, I don't know if you've experienced this, but it's like drunk guys will come up to me on the street. Like, it hasn't happened in a while, but drunk white guys will come up to me in the street and say things thinking like I'm with them.
Oh,
And
they'll
I'm
think.
like,
Oh, because they'll think you're like a skin, like a
yeah,
yeah. But skinhead. I mean, that's a whole other topic. Skinhead wasn't always
right.
racist. Then it got kind of hijacked by the racists. I know that was originally just like
Precisely,
yeah,
precisely,
yeah,
precisely. But that was, but I've had people, you know, say things to me, and I'm like, you need to walk away from me right now. And they're like, oh, shit, okay, didn't, you know? I'm like, no, go take that elsewhere.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I definitely I've had people like assume I'm gonna agree with like some ignorant like stereotype or something like that. But, like
yep,
yeah,
yep,
yeah,
yep. And it's you know, it's sad. It's sad. Luckily, I mean, I've tightened my circle over the years,
yeah,
so I even like slight things like that don't really happen as much anymore.
yeah,
But like when it did though, it would be literally drunken strangers, you know, or like a repair guy that comes over and says something like, I'm like, what?
because I think it's like oh we're just saying what everybody's thinking. It's like
Right. It's like you're here to
yeah,
check the electrical meter. Like I don't want to know.
yeah,
Like what? Like no, I don't need to know this bullshit. Get away from me.
yeah.
Get that
It's like
racist
because
shit
like
away from me.
because it's like there is no oh they're like that. They're like it's like they're just like you. Like there's all kinds. There's some that are like it's just like they look a bit different. They come from a different culture. It's like it's
Right. Every possible way you can group people, you're going to find middle people that don't give a shit. You're going to find wonderful people. You're going to find absolute bastards, and that's just humanity. That's a pole of humanity. Like whatever that breakup is,
yeah,
that breakup is the same wherever the hell you go
yeah,
because we're poorly evolved primates. Right?
yeah,
We're very poorly evolved primates.
yeah,
If you look at it that way, it's like, well, then that's who we and what we are. We
yeah.
should eventually become better, but that's what we are.
Yeah,
That's
and
all
and
we
I
are.
feel like that kind of you miss out a lot on life. That's like kind of like a small, just like closed off life to just think in those rigid ways. You know, but
I can't imagine. I can't imagine. You know, and it's also doubled with people who learn one way, and then even if they feel they're wrong, they can't be wrong. Because if you change your mind on something, then you're a hypocrite. It's like, no, you're an idiot if you don't
yeah,
change your mind. With when presented with new information, if you can't sit there and say, well, you know, this is this and this is this. I
yeah,
spent a good part of my life thinking that alien beings were the missing link in the human trail, and that's why we're sentient and animals aren't. And then I actually studied anthropology, and I'm like, there is no missing link. I'm an idiot. But if I held on to like, you know,
yeah,
no, it's little green guys,
yeah,
then I'd be a fool. But I was presented
yeah,
with evidence. I was presented with intelligence, and I said, okay, I can learn from this, and I can change my worldview or not. And I decided to change my
yeah.
worldview.
Well, I think it's also because people can't differentiate like changing your mind with changing your values. I think some people are like, oh, if I change my mind, that means I'm changing my values and who I am. But it's like, no, not necessarily. Like you could still be true to your values and
Yeah,
change your mind on like the
yeah.
details and like the you know.
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to stop being a good person because you question God. You don't have to stop being a good person because you think of prayer in a different way. You don't. You know,
Yeah,
it's like you're not changing your values. You're just you've been presented with new information. You know, that's
yeah,
why people that live in coastal cities, like I just think in general they're more experienced because they they encounter everyone.
yeah,
Whoever comes into the country on a ship or a plane, if you live in a coastal city, you're going to experience more ideas, and with more ideas becomes you have a greater wisdom. You know, and it's not like if something's potential; it's like what they're exposed to. You
yeah.
know, if you've been told there's one way of thinking and one way of believing and one way of this, and you never see anyone that does anything
Yeah,
different, why would you ever think that anything would be
yeah,
different? You know? But then, like you live in someplace like New York. It's like okay, well, go to Main Street Flushing sometime and spend an hour walking around. You will encounter every type
like
of
every
human
time.
being, every gender, every race, every creed, every belief system, every size, everything. You'll find everything. You'll find handicapped people, you'll find blind people, deaf people. You stay there long enough, you'll see someone with Down syndrome. You stay there long enough, you're gonna see Indian people and Chinese people and Korean people and white people. It's
Yeah,
you know, it's just exposure. It's just exposure, and it's funny. I was having this conversation recently. Like the ultimate, I think the ultimate thing that's going to be the greatest part of the internet is it might be cat memes and it might be some other funny shit, but I think it's just going to be a breakdown of deeply held thoughts because
you're exposed to
now
all these other different
you're
viewpoints. Yeah,
exposed to everything, or you can find out about things. Like if you let's say you were in the Westboro Baptist Church, and that's how you were raised, and you're like 13 years old, and you're being raised that like God is coming and He wants to kill homosexuals. It's like you can go online and see that most people don't think that,
yeah,
and then it's like, oh, and there's the seed. There's the seed. Mormons do this. Mormons go online and they go, Joseph Smith was arrested for what? you
yeah. Actually, now
know,
that I think about that, that's how I started questioning a lot of things, like early 20s and stuff like that. I believe when I was younger, like I was like, oh, it's I don't like. I never heard this view on it. Like I was just looking at one way, you know.
right, right.
Yeah,
So now that everyone has that access to that thing in their pockets, it's like, okay, well now the only thing holding you back is yourself. It's the only thing holding you back from learning it. You know, so
yeah. So let's see. Yeah, because I know we're kind of like wrapping up at this point. There was like two other set. Yeah, but mm,
I'm down for whatever, man.
yeah. I guess I could just go through the two. Yeah, we could always. So, would you say dystopian fiction is warning us, or is it describing like what's already happening?
I think it's a healthy dose of both. I think that if it's not somewhat based in what we can see and feel now, it's too easy to dismiss it as pure fiction, and like that's something we got to worry about then. If it's presented in a way where yeah, that could be a future, but you see the seeds of it now, you know, yeah, then it has to be rooted in something we're kind of feeling is potential now or really happening now, and then expand on that, and then excuse me, amplify that, completely amplify that, and and that's how you get the hook. So it's like, yeah, I'm seeing this too. I am seeing this too. I am understanding this, and oh yeah, okay, yeah, I can see where that was going. As opposed to something completely far fetched. That like, okay, that'd be interesting if that ever happened, but it can't possibly happen here. You know?
Yeah, and then sometimes there's things that kind of reoccur too, like rise of authoritarian regimes. It could be applied to so many things, and then you see the seeds, and then but then it's like people don't. It's just interesting how many people don't catch it in like real time, like seeing like the demon, like this the basic things, like the demonization of the other, the the playing off emotions and simplistic things, no, the lack of nuance. Like, I just don't see how people like don't see it in real time, like when it's there, but they can see it through the outside, like through a fictional film or looking at another period in
Right.
history. But when it's happening in real time, like so many people are just blind to it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because the farther you're removed from the last time something's happened, the more fictional it seems. When I was in college, there was a when I was working on my anthropology degree, there was a course that was called Philosophy of the Holocaust, and I made the mistake of taking this at 8 a.m. on Monday mornings. So I start my week with, with this, and it was a wonderful course. I think everyone should learn as much about the Holocaust as they possibly can. I think that the danger, you always say never forget, so the danger is forgetting the realities of that. But the professor said, I need you all to understand something. Hitler wasn't a monster. Hitler was just a man. And this one kid got up and he lost his shit. And he was like, how dare you say that he wasn't demonic and sent from the devil? And he goes, he wasn't. He was a guy. And this kid stormed out. Like, he couldn't take the course. He just left. But it's true because he was just a guy. He was just one guy. But he was able to talk enough shit to enough people to convince
Yeah,
them, and then they could convince others. But he wasn't the devil, and he wasn't an alien, and he wasn't a monster, and he wasn't this evil creation. He was a person who did evil things. And that's the scariest shit in the world. People don't want to talk about that. They want,
yeah,
so the farther you're away from that, it's like, oh, yeah, oh, you'll bring up Hitler. Oh yeah, sure, so was Hitler. It's like, yeah, but because that was not, that wasn't even 100
yeah,
years ago. And he was just a guy, a pretty nondescript guy in the beginning.
yeah. They didn't
A
even
regular
really like take
fucking
him
guy.
seriously at first. He was
Yeah,
kind of a joke, but he
yeah.
latched on to like an anger that was there. He latched on to like the current. Yeah,
And he saw what he could do with it. And other people, it's not just him. Other people around him did it, but he was the figurehead of it, and he was the driving force. Because he had whatever the hell came out of his shell. Because they said he was mustard gassed, and then that kind of thing can absolutely damage the brain. And they didn't know
well,
that
they
at the
say
time, but
that's how Hitler got how he was.
yeah, because it's like whatever he was always feeling, the chemical alteration and damage to his brain did that switch of what I feel and the crazy shit that I was raised with is now reality, and therefore I have to make this reality the reality for everyone. It's a theory.
But
No
then
one knows,
people
but
and people
but
were
it
like,
makes sense.
yeah, and then people were angry and they kind of latched onto that and like they found a scapegoat.
Yeah, yeah, and it could be anything. I always said if we all looked exactly the same way, we were all the same height, the same look, the same color, same everything, we would look for people who had connected lobes or disconnected lobes, and those would be the two tribes of humans. Like,
Yeah,
oh, no, all
find
those
some
all
way to
those
say
single lobe people, yeah, yeah, we know how they are. Like, it would be some crazy stupid
yeah,
shit, you know. Like, the webbing of your thumb is like it's bigger than mine. Well, you guys are the
yeah,
small web guys. It would be something like that. And if it made money for someone and put them in power, it would be something because then they could talk about that.
yeah.
And then there'd be cartoons about people's ears, and it's like whatever the thing would be, whatever that other is.
And that's like I read this thing that said that it's good to humanize the villains not because we're like rooting for them, but because to make people understand that given the circumstances, you could become the villain.
Precisely. There are
Yeah,
no supernatural monsters in our history. Everyone who acted monstrously was just another human. You
yeah.
know,
I think
nine.
that's what I know. Joker
Yeah,
was a controversial film, but I think in some ways that's what it was showing.
yeah,
Like Joker was just some guy, like he was like some crazy guy,
yeah.
and then like he evolved into the
He was a very deeply disturbed person who found the outlet, found his particular outlet. David Berkowitz did the same thing. He found his outlet.
yeah.
It's like he wasn't the devil. He wasn't an ogre. He was just a guy from Queens. I'm a guy from Queens. It's like
Yeah.
You
But I
know?
guess you could say like maybe some people are more because like I feel like some people are born like without empathy or but like maybe like sometimes there are people that are like more evil than others, and then the people who are kind of influenced by them are more like the serials who buy into the
Right.
propaganda. Like
Right.
Hitler could be like the Palpatine, and then Cyril is all the Germans who bought the propaganda and thought he was helping
Right.
Germany. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to look at a Palpatine deal because a Palpatine guy is like it's like that is a supernatural creature.
yeah,
You know, that is a force infused
yeah.
demonic super being. You
Well, I
know,
guess
with
Anakin
magical
was a little more
powers.
human because he starts out as just like a regular kid.
Right, but he's also like these superhuman. You know, like these are people that like they can command magic. You
Yeah,
know, the Harry Potter world. You know,
yeah,
but I understand the allegory, but yeah, it's just an important thing to know that it's these are just people, and that's the scary thing, and people can't accept that. But that's just
yeah,
I'm not a fan of the current administration, but I don't believe any of them are demonic. I don't think that there's like winged animals,
yeah.
infusing their brains and stuff.
He was
I
just a reality TV star, and well, like a lot of other stuff too.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of mental abuse and a lot of mental issues going on there,
Yeah,
but which I don't know if they're his fault or not, but there's a lot going on, and there are people that are born without empathy. There are complete sociopaths, and it's very unfortunate. There are people that are born with these hunters mentalities, like these horrible tendencies that is not really in their control, and it's just a randomness of how
the brain
brain
was. Yeah,
chemistry works. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's just a randomness of, I mean, if you look at every serial killer that's ever been known, like who are their parents? And their parents are just regular people. I mean, Hitler's parents are just
yeah.
regular people.
Yeah, I think that was like Jeffrey Dahmer was like, "Don't blame my parents." They didn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, do they contribute to that kind of shit? Well, yeah, but it's not
Yeah,
like
because I know
they
some of them are
use.
like severely abused, but others aren't.
Right, 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 right. So it's in general, people are just people, and it's these weird various things that we have to contend with. But you know, and there's what 8.5 billion of us, and 8.5 billion makeups. you know, kind of crazy to think about, but you know.
Yeah, and I guess what topics do you want to explore with your future work?
Well, I mean, it's interesting when we did Dad and Your Roommate. One of the topics was the fear of the unknown, fear of the other, because they're afraid of someone coming in, moving into the parent's house, and
Hmm.
living there and abusing the father or taking advantage. And it's like, but you don't even know who this person is, and they're like, okay, but they've already pre-decided who this person's going to be. So
Yeah,
already you're on a level of the other, and the father kind of brings them in, like, who are you to talk about the other, and who are you to talk about the other, like his gay daughter comes home with her wife, and he's like, so suddenly we're going to be worried about people who aren't like everybody else, so it's a whole thing, and it's like it just, well, my actors were fantastic because it's just back and forth, and but the next one I'm doing is not really so much of an allegory for a lot of current times, but I'm doing the next one we're filming in February is a time travel movie, and a guy comes from 200 years in the future, and he gets picked up by the cops and brought to the FBI, and they interrogate him, and he's like, "Listen, I swear it's true. I'm from the future," and no one is impressed. And he's like, "I'm not lying." They're like, "No, we don't think you're lying. So we just have a couple of questions for you, sir." And like everyone's just kind of bored, like they're just completely unimpressed with him. And then the movie explains like precisely why they're really just not that impressed. But but yes, that's kind of like that's a true science fiction thing, you know. But I have other stuff that I'm working on that does explore, what happens when AI is different. What does what I like the idea of being frightened of the other, even if there's some kind of reason maybe you should be, but is that enough to make you do certain things? You know, like even if you feel you're justified, even if you might actually be justified to be a little wary of things you don't know, should you act on them until you do know?
Yeah.
You know, so
So you
I
try
try to
to
explore.
understand, maybe try to understand them, like if we can. Yeah.
Yep, and it doesn't always have the best result either. So I never like to be too preachy with it. Like I like to put the situation in there, but I always try to make it like one side's going to have the rosy outcome. You
Yeah.
know, I generally don't do that, or I leave it open to having the audience decide for themselves. Like, well, what's really going on here? Someone thought that Dad the Roommate was an anti woke film because he goes back at the daughter who's gay, and like, oh, he put her in her place. Oh, I saw what you were doing there. I'm like, what was I doing there? You know, and the message loud and like, received loud and clear, and I'm like, what the hell message did you hear? You know, like, are you new? Did you ever met me before? Right? It's like I'm so liberal. I'm like 2 steps away from arming the homeless. Like, like, are you kidding me? You know? So it's like okay, if that's what you got from it, I can't tell you what your interpretation of art is, but that's not what I wrote. That's not what I fucking wrote. But it's
Yeah.
just interesting what people see. People will see. I guess that's the other side of it. People are going to
They'll
see.
use it to fit their. But I think I said that a bit earlier, like how people take Orwell, or I see a lot of people on the right
Right? Yeah.
take George Carlin stuff. Like they'll be like MAGA people that like take George Carlin. They'll be like say what he would say this and that, but it's like, like did they not listen to all his jokes? Like he was always bashing the conservatives and the like he was very liberal with a lot of like he got annoyed with someone like the overly PC stuff,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like he wasn't he was still like liberal. He was still like on more on the left, like with a lot of his
I
views.
was lucky enough to see Carlin perform once. I went to see it at Pace University. That he did like a 2 hour stand up. This has to be 35 years ago,
Uh,
and he was incredible, but conservative leaning. No, those whoever's thinking that absolutely missed the mark. They
yeah, because like
definitely
there's
missed the
this
point with
like
him.
new like the conservatives. A lot of them now think they're the contrarians and the this, but it's
Yeah,
like
no,
yeah,
no, no. You're fetching the water and you're carrying it.
yeah,
Yeah, no, 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 nothing contrary about that. And what's a subset of this is really interesting, I think, which will be a whole other topic. Of all the people who I've met in my life who demanded gun rights because they needed to stockpile weapons in case they ever needed to use it against an oppressive government.
yeah. But now it's an oppressive government they like, and it's like, oh, if they're putting people in a prison in another country because they said something a political idea they didn't like, then that's fine because it's one of those un-American people. It's one of those crazy,
Yeah,
it's not me. It's not a real American.
it's
Like,
one of them.
yeah,
It's one of them types, and you know how they are.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's the most insane thing.
yeah,
Like like when they start breaking the Constitution, taking away our
yeah,
constitutional rights, and start making camps, I'm gonna fire. And it's like
yeah,
they're literally doing it right now, and you're
yeah,
smiling. Like, where are your guns now? And I'm not saying people should go out and get guns and
yeah.
fucking shoot people, but like your whole thing, your whole life was this.
Yeah, like Alex Jones was always talking about like tyranny taking over, but now he's like a
Yeah,
cheerleader for it.
of course he is, because he can make money selling more dick pills about it.
Yeah,
And that boy needs all the money he can get because he owes like, what does he owe, like $4 billion?
yeah, because the Sandy Hook conspiracy.
Who in the hell? Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know. And what people said to me, how do you make money saying that those children were crisis actors? I'm thinking, how do you find the people to give you who are willing to give
Yeah,
you the money because you're saying that? Like that's the scarier part to
yeah,
me.
because I think though, like people like those conspiracy theories, people there's just like a lot of people who like they'll watch a couple of YouTube videos and buy in, but then they won't look into all this other stuff that goes against the conspiracy. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Christopher Hitchens, love him or hate him, I have mixed feelings about the guy. But when he was alive, he would say things like this. He would say the we are pattern seeking mammals, and we would rather have a conspiracy theory than no theory at all.
Yeah.
We'd rather see lies in something than not understand what something is
Yeah.
and just try to reason it out. We'd rather just have a fast thing because we're looking for patterns. We're looking. That's why you can see faces in things.
Yeah.
That's why we can see things like we experience
Yeah.
deja vu, things like that. We're pattern seeking mammals, and
But
that's
at least like
help
with
us
some,
survive.
yeah, but at least with like some conspiracies, it would make sense why they would do it. Like for the war in Iraq, like that they would stage something here so we would go into Iraq,
Right,
or JFK would make sense. And actually, there is some hints that maybe there was something going on with that. I don't know
right,
for sure, but like,
right.
but with Sandy Hook, what would the government have even gained? Like they
Or,
didn't
or
take away the gun. Like I don't see what
yeah,
they.
yeah. It's I guess in the long term, like if you stage 8 or 9 more of these, then they'll come and take the guns away. But there's been a mass shooting every day in America
Yeah.
for four
So
and a
like
half
all
years.
these, how many false flags are they going to do before they just?
Yeah, yeah. It's like I'm sure there are people right now, all those poor people that died in the Indian air crash. I
Yeah.
guarantee you, there's a whole conspiracy world right now saying, well, it's
Yeah.
Ukrainian missiles. They misfired and went across continents and it hit that plane. Those are
Oh
the
yeah, that's the
Ukrainians,
other thing.
right?
The whole like anti-Ukraine,
Oh,
pro-Russia thing. It's just ridiculous.
the same people that were like Russia's our enemy, Russia's our enemy, and now it's like oh we have to understand where they're coming from,
Yeah.
you know,
They
and
just
that
they just
that's
like they
Orwellian
like
shit.
dictatorships. That's what it is.
That's Orwellian shit because for the first half of that book, right, they're at war with East Asia, and then they're at war with Eurasia, and they've
Yeah.
always been allies with East Asia.
It's like
And it's
yeah,
like
it like fluctuates who the enemy. They just had to have somebody. But
and then Winston's job was to erase all of the mentions, saying, well, of course we've always been at war with them. They're the enemy. And there's great theory saying that that there actually was no war, that those 3 regions were using a form of English socialism that you see in the Ingsoc you see in 1984. The different regions were using the same playbook, and they were actually all in communication and in trade with each other, and staging this fake war to keep the people going and keep them constantly angry, because then they'll constantly produce and they'll constantly listen
yeah,
and they'll
and they'll
constantly
constantly
obey.
love Big Brother. That's
Right. So you have a big brother in the middle of Asia, like it's like somewhere like around Iran. You have a big brother in China. You have a big brother in all these different places, and then there's an American version. So it's like, well, what's going on there then? Like it is the aftermath of a war, but it's like there's a theory that like those 3 places, they decide to change it up every now and then to keep the people fresh and keep them on point. And all of the explosions and all the battles and all that stuff, it's all just stage shit. And horror finally makes sense, like the
yeah,
ultimate conspiracy theory in that world. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing. You
yeah.
know,
Well, so is that also kind of relates to the animal farm too? Like the people who were all conspiracy minded, now they get in charge. They're the ones doing what they said they were against.
precisely,
Yeah,
precisely, but they're doing it for the right reasons,
yeah,
all for the right reasons. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. What's that curse? May you live in interesting times.
yeah,
We definitely living in them, brother. We're definitely living in 'em. That's for damn sure.
yeah. It'd be one interesting TV show if it wasn't real. America would be an interesting TV show if it wasn't
Yeah,
reality.
yeah, yeah. It would just be like look what might happen someday.
Yeah.
But if you had newscasts from today and you showed them 40 years ago, people would be like, "Wow, I hope that never happens."
Well, actually, even like I think even on like The Simpsons, like 20 years ago, I think it used to be a joke, like, "Oh, one day Trump will be president," and then eventually,
Yeah, friggin' Oprah Winfrey had him on her show back in the day, asking if he's going to run. Are you going to run,
yeah,
Oprah fucking Winfrey? It's like,
that's weird though. Like he kind of changed his brand around a lot too, because he used to be like friends with the I don't know, like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like he's just a showman, really. Like he doesn't have any consistent
yeah. It's wherever the
ideology. He
wherever the
latches on to different
yeah,
things. That, yeah,
yeah, whatever the bigger sell is.
yeah.
If
And his
he
positions
can
change like all the time. Like it's
if he could make more money becoming a Buddhist monk right now,
Yeah.
he'd be putting on robes.
It'd be like I'd be the greatest Buddhist monk ever. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
Zen. It's
exactly. No one understood Zen. People don't know Zen. It's, I got Zen. I called Steven Seagal. He gave me Zen. You know, it's like okay. But if he could make more money on that, he'd be a Buddhist monk tomorrow.
yeah, exactly.
And then 70 million Americans would say, you know, we always knew he'd be a Buddhist monk, and that's why we started learning Buddhism.
Yeah.
We always knew. I mean, it was
But I almost
clear.
think that's what like some people saw in him. Like, not that I agree because I don't like Trump at all, but I think some people like they saw that because like yeah he's not a good guy, but like he was playing his own game, not like the same game as the other politicians. I think that's what some people liked. They didn't think he was like the other politicians. Like,
I
'cause
know
he was,
when
yeah,
he first won, that's what most people I know that voted for him. That's exactly what they said. You know, and a lot of those people later on were like, "Yeah, this is not what we asked for."
yeah,
But they were replaced by people who were like, "Yeah, we weren't sure about that guy. We love what he's fucking doing now, man. We love it." And now he could just stay. Like we don't need to vote anymore. We're fine. Just
yeah,
stay. Like we were on the fence about it, but now we're right
yeah.
behind him.
Well,
And
now
I
and
know
some of the
people did
people that
that. Yeah.
supported him are getting screwed by like him, like you know all the cuts and stuff like that. So
But they'll still blame someone else.
yeah,
They'll still never blame him. It's just never gonna. That's truly the Big Brother thing. I can't be wrong. There can't be buyer's remorse because Jesus would have told me otherwise.
yeah,
It's like, okay, great, terrific, all right, cool.
yeah, like a cult kind of.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a few friends of mine got very upset when they were told they were in a cult. Got very very upset, and I'm like, go on Wikipedia, look up the definition of a cult, and then tell me how it's not that. Just look it up. Just look it up. A guy tried to indoctrinate me into a cult like 20 years ago. So I mean, I know the spiel. It's
Yeah,
like no, I'm not buying you. But yeah, it's absolutely when the person in charge can't be wrong. There's no other way to call it.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
no, it's just no, there's nothing else you can call it. When the leader is not allowed to be wrong, you're either in North Korea
Yeah.
or or you know or
And I
you're
think he even likes Kim Jong Un, from what I understand. Like,
oh, you know
yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah,
I think he hates him because he's not white, but I
yeah,
think he loves the mentality. He
yeah,
loves the fact that people are terrified of him and see him as a god. I think that he absolutely loves that kind of stuff.
yeah,
You know, like wouldn't want him around his daughter, but like definitely loves the idea. You
yeah.
know,
They're like total control, kind of. Yeah,
and worship.
yeah,
This you can have
yeah.
control.
Well, he's a narcissist. That's what they like
Yeah,
the
it's the
concept of.
worship part. It's
Yeah,
the way they look at him. He said it. The way they stand up when he walks to a room, they all stand up and they all look at him adoringly. And it's like,
yeah. And what was that line he said? He said like I could walk down in the middle of the street, I could shoot someone and I wouldn't lose a follower.
yeah. And I think he's 100% right.
yeah,
I think he could. I think he could shoot a
yeah,
baby in the Oval Office, and most of the people that voted for the man would say, "Man, it got to be a reason he shot that
yeah.
baby."
Well, that baby was going to grow up to be a communist. And,
We heard that baby might have been the devil, and we talked about it in church, and the preacher said it might have been the devil, and or we think that he did a godly thing, and he
yeah.
saved America. Now we could be great again because that baby's dead.
And that also made me think of like the boys the doing great. Like I feel like Homelander is a good kind of commentary on that.
Voice is fantastic,
Yeah,
and the guy playing Homelander was
yeah.
he's
And then
so
people were actually liking his character, like some of the audience, and he's like, "Wait, you guys are missing the point. This guy's not
yeah.
supposed to be good." Even the actor who played Homelander was
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's like no, I haven't portrayed him being a nice person at all. Like this is not something you should ever want to be. That's not what it's supposed to be about at all. Insane.
yeah.
I love that show though.
Yeah.
I
Um,
love that.
so why like because a lot of people say, oh, they just want entertainment, they don't want their politics, and like certain people said that with and or they want more like the pew pew. But why do you think we need this kind of art? Why not just like the entertainment? Why the art that's uncomfortable?
There's nothing wrong with stuff that's entertainment. I mean, like, you
Yeah,
could put on South Park, or you could put on like Family
yeah,
Guy or something. You could be entertained as hell. Bob's Burgers, you could be
yeah.
entertained as hell.
Even though South
Um,
Park sometimes has social commentary.
well, they do, but there sometimes it's just like, what
Yeah,
the hell? What are they
yeah,
doing?
yeah,
Sometimes they'll
yeah,
nail it, but there's nothing wrong with just having some fun,
yeah,
commentary on. I mean, commentary free art forms, and it could be a lot of fun. Kill Bill movie's perfect
yeah,
example. But I think that a lot of times, throughout history, what we know about things that were going on is through art.
yeah,
And now we have so many different ways to do it. It doesn't have to just be paintings or sculpture, or be. It could be visual. You know, I think that if people don't use their platform or use their ability to speak their truth, why are we bothering? Honestly, why are we bothering? What possible better thing to do than is to show the world itself and say, listen, this is how I see what's going on,
hmm,
and then inspire the next people to go and say, yeah, this is what I see going on. And I agree with that, and I never thought of it that way.
yeah.
It's communication, and it
And
has
it,
to
and it helps
be
people learn through times. That's how people are able to say like, "Oh, this is just like 1984. This is just like
right, right. It's yeah, really anything like that. Orwell's a perfect example, because it's he didn't mean for it to be a textbook. Like, he
yeah."
didn't. It's not a manual.
Oh yeah, I think I saw that.
It's
Yeah,
a
that
warning.
wasn't meant to be an instruction, man.
Right, right. It's not. It's not a friggin' owner's manual. I guess it's how it's taken. I don't know. It's important for people who have a certain mentality to push what they see as truth, and then it's up for other people to say, I accept this or I don't. You know, but if they can never say, I wasn't told, I wasn't shown. You can reject it, but you can't say, no one ever showed me.
No.
And then it might take a long, 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 long time. You know, I know people that come to the end of their lives and they're like, the religious views I had, the political views I had, they were wrong. I know people that came 67 years old going, yeah, I was wrong about that. And maybe wouldn't have done that had they not seen something like Get Out, or
Yeah,
they had not read an Ursula Le Guin
yeah,
book, or not understood. You know, it's like
yeah.
it's
Because Get
it's
Out like
so vitally
really,
important.
yeah, Get Out was really good. Like helped you kind of like see the fear that like I wouldn't understand because like I'm not a person of color. Like being dealing with that kind of like that fear.
Right.
When he's around those that group of the white, you know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah, and that was just done so well, because they didn't try to sugarcoat it. And I think that's important. And we're losing history, like you said. Like, there are people that don't want to teach history. There are people that don't want to. There's a reason there's an absolute idiot in charge of the Department of Education.
yeah,
Like, there's a reason for
yeah,
this. It's because they know she can't do it. She
yeah.
can't make it better. She can only make it worse, and it's exactly by design.
Yeah,
You
and that
know,
that kind
so
of
it's
relates
like,
to like the. I feel like there's always kind of been like an anti-intellectualism here, like in the U.S. too.
I would tell you this. I worked at a Catholic school. I counted money for Catholic school for 7 years. I was the treasurer of the school, and I said to the principal, they're closing a lot of schools, and we're not getting the same kind of kids coming in. And he said, yeah, it's because we did our jobs. I said, what do you mean? This is a guy dedicated, lifelong religious brother, dedicated his life to Jesus, to everything. He said, we didn't just teach religion. We taught critical thinking. And the more critical thinking that we taught you, all of you as a generation, the less you needed us. And I went, oh, shit. Like, I kind of felt that, but I
Yeah,
never heard anyone say it, let alone someone who was a principal of one of the schools. He said, "Yeah, y'all don't need us anymore." And I'm like, "Oh shit, it's kind of true," you know. And that's yeah, yeah. That was an eye opening moment for me, you know. But yeah, the more you learn, the more you see things, the less you need to rely on whatever the hell, you know. You think for
yeah.
yourself and you make different choices,
Hmm.
and that's vitally important.
So wait, that was like a whole bunch of students left at once, or that was like a gradual thing, and then
It was we saw attrition rates year after year after year going down to the point where we barely had enough students to keep the place running.
because they just questioned the religious stuff, or just like everything. Yeah.
There was a lot of it was financial, but most of it was, we don't really need to have this right now. Like, this isn't a requirement in
Yeah.
my life to have my kids go to this school, right? There was also a financial burden because there were less and less nuns and less priests, so they had to have more and more lay people. And since lay people have to pay their own rent and pay their
Yeah.
own food, they need bigger salaries and they need unions. And the
Yeah.
school system and the Catholic school system wasn't designed for that, you know. But eventually there were so few students that they couldn't keep the place open, so they sold it and turned it into condos. And then, the gym is $18.1 million if you want to live there, on 87th and West End. But yeah, but that was something he had told me, and flat out I was like, holy shit, he's right. He's absolutely right. The more critical thinking you have, the more you don't, you can still believe, but the less you rely on mythology, the less you rely on it, But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I guess I don't know. I guess my final thought is I encourage people to like question what they've taught or always believed, or um, yeah, maybe like if you think you know everything about like a certain group or something, actually talk to someone from that group and get to know them. Like
Yep,
because I that can really like it not only helps you like question your bias, but it's also like reward. It's like you'll have rewarding like unexpected like connections too, and like you'll learn things you never thought before too.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I can't think of experiences I've had in my life where I regretted meeting someone who wasn't me.
yeah,
Like, I've never had that experience of someone being like, "Oh, I could have done without learning about that culture." Like, I've never had that experience.
yeah,
Like individuals, it could be, well, it could have been really good not to meet that guy again.
yeah.
But like, that guy would have been anybody. But yeah, yeah. The more you,
If you just go by like the media and stuff, you're told a very like black and white, simplistic view of things that isn't always accurate.
that is something that Andor did perfectly when they
Yeah,
had a rows of, not to get spoilers, but they had the rows of reporters
yeah,
all giving the same speech to the different networks about how violent everything was. Meanwhile, there's nothing.
yeah. And then it was like completely untrue about these people.
And Cyril goes to one today after the other, and he sees them all doing this. Like, what are you talking about? They're right behind me. This isn't happening.
Yeah,
That was what's, I think that's what sparked him. Those reporters. I think they're the main ones that sparked him. Like, oh my
yeah.
god, wait a minute, are they all in on this? Like,
Yeah.
this is a
That's why I
plan
had to
now?
watch that like more than once because there's a lot of stuff you don't catch the first time.
Yeah. I just watched the series again with a good friend of mine, and she loved it, and it was my third watching of Andor. Well, second watching of the entire series, but then like certain episodes I watched 3 or 4 times.
Right.
And that one I definitely watched 3 or 4 times. Yeah, I think 4 times at this point. Yeah, jeez.
Yeah.
But yeah, just there's the little subtleties of those kinds of things you see in there. It's amazing,
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
And Rogue One was already good, but this just made like the series made Rogue One like even better.
Did you go right into Rogue One when you
Yeah.
when you finished it? It's
Yeah, it's like
awesome,
totally
right?
good.
Isn't it awesome?
Yeah.
It's just like another episode. Like, oh shit. So I want to do Andor into Rogue One into Star Wars in one day. Like the last 2 episodes of Andor, 3 episodes of Andor
And
into
then
Rogue
to A
One
New
into
Hope.
Star
Yeah.
Wars. and then just
Yeah.
go right
Because
through
then
to
they made a
the
small character big, the leader of the rebellion woman, Mon Mothma.
yeah, yeah. Who the hell saw that coming?
Yeah.
You know, and because they expanded on her in the cartoon series. I didn't really see a lot of that, but they made her a bigger character. Then that's why they had her in Rogue One, and but who thought, like, when I was 14 years old seeing Return of the Jedi, I'm sitting there going, okay, so there's this lady. Who's she? She's someone important. She's kind of dressed like Princess Leia was, so she must be someone important. Like, I had no idea who the hell this was. you know, Make her the central character, and then show like the elite of the elite how they lived and what they did during the rebellions. Perfection. I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
I was happily surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some good shit, man. I love that.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think like where to like any final thoughts you want to add or anything or
Um, I say this all the time, and it's true. There's never been a better time to create art. There's never been a time where it's easier to you for physically produce things. You can shoot with the camera in your pocket. The camera in your pocket is a stronger camera than Voyager spaceship has, and they went to different planets. You can record anything. You can write anything. Um, everyone has access to a computer. You can write. You can, if you need a pencil, write with that. Everyone has access to art. Everyone has access to everything, and all you have to do is just try it. Just create something. It doesn't matter what it is. Interpretive dance, sculpture, architecture. It doesn't matter.
yeah.
You
It
know,
might not even be good at first, but then like as you get going with it, it's
I get unless there is reincarnation and you are Mozart, no, you're gonna suck, and you have to just work at it and build from it, and then say what do I like and what I don't like. There are editing choices that I made 10 years ago I would never make today because I think that I'm better now. But I couldn't do it better now than if I wasn't doing it then. If I wasn't starting, just try. And
yeah.
the thing is, there's never going to be a perfect time for it. There's never going to be a time where it's right in your life. You have an idea, write it down. Even if it's something you don't get to right away, write it down. I want to learn auto mechanics. I want to build a race car. I want to fix televisions and make art form out of old TV sets. I want to do anything. I want to build crazy ass synthesizers back there and try to figure out how to use them. It's like that's you have to just do something. And the time is now because no one ever knows how much time they have. So just do it all now. Do everything
You
now.
gotta live the moment. Yeah.
You have to. You have to. There's so many things in our lives where you can't live in the moment. You can't just do that. You can't just say screw everything. I'm going to go off on a sabbatical. It's like someone's got to pay your rent. You have to have a job. You have to do something. But damn, just create art. A piece of paper and a pencil. You can write. You could start writing the next Harry Potter series. You could start writing the next Jaws. You could start writing anything. Or with your cell phone camera. Like film different people at your job, or film with their permission. Film people on the street, film things you've seen, and then create something out of that. Just do it. Just do it. It won't cost a dime. Just create something.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
always create something.
yeah, and any of you listening, like, feel free to reach out. Like, if there's like comment, like if there's any art that, like, what art recently has got you to question things, or like what are your thoughts on this conversation? I'd like to hear from you, the listeners too. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know if you want to plug like your page to follow or anything.
Yeah, you guys just go to pdevaney.com. You can find me. It's my name on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm not Rev Pat. And yeah, just go to film festivals. Go see what people are making. If you're into films, go to film festivals by you.
Yeah,
Take the afternoon. Just go and see what people are creating. You'll be absolutely amazed.
yeah,
I co-manage the First Contact Film Festival every year, and we had wonderful films this year. People came out of there and they said, "I can't believe it. People are making these."
yeah,
Out of the side of the studio system, beautiful films, absolutely beautiful. First Contact Film Festival.com. But but yeah, but just just definitely do that. Just explore everything you can. You know, go out and see something. You know, go to the opera. Go to see a dance recital. You know, Alvin Ailey's around. Go see Alvin Ailey. You know,
I'd be interested to hear like if anybody was inspired by this or they started creating anything new like because of this or experienced anything new because of this. Well, yeah.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, when we were doing conventions for zombie hunters, we had one young man came up to us and he was like 14 years old and he's like, I want to make movies. We said, then go make a movie. And he's like, no, but I want to. We're like, yeah, then go ahead and do it. 2 years ago at the Long Island Film Expo, Long Island International Film Expo, Life, that same kid walked up to me, and he's like 23 years old now, and he's like, "How you been?" I'm like, "Oh shit!" Right? And he had this movie, and it was like, I said to him afterwards, I feel like I got mugged. Like he did this crazy crime, drug drama, and shit. But he was like, "I want to make a movie." We're like, "Go make a movie," and he went out and he did it. And then he made another one, another one, another
Yeah.
one. And he got into this
That's
one.
another thing. Like you never know how you're inspiring someone else, or like one word like of encouragement.
No,
What's
I
gonna
mean
do?
he was on his way. He was going to do it no matter what my dumbass said. But he heard enough people that weekend. It was a Monster Mania. It had to be at least 10 years ago. He heard enough people that weekend telling him all the same thing. Like, we believe in you. Go and do it. Go and do it. Go and do it. Create today. Start now. And he did. And he won best editing of any film in the thing.
Well,
You know, and up
yeah.
against some heavy hitters, like some really good work. And his film was phenomenal. And I was like, man, how did you have this in you? It's crazy. It was like watching Reservoir Dogs for the first
Yeah.
time. I'm like this, but like psychedelic. I'm like, what the, you know? But I'll never forget that kid. Now he's a grown ass man. He's making films.
Nice.
You know. So yeah, just go out and do it. Just everyone, just do it.
Yeah, and now that I think of it, like actually, I think that's how I initially was inspired to do the podcast. I forget who it was, but somebody said to me like, "Oh, just go start a podcast," and then I just did.
Yeah, yeah, just do it. Just
Yeah.
always be creating. You know.
Well, that's about it for this episode of Let's Talk About the Deep Stuff. Thanks again, Patrick, for coming on. It's been a good
Thank you.
chat. And if you want to keep updated with future episodes, I'm on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's talk about the deep stuff. Social media, let's talk about the deep stuff. And that's about it for this episode. We'll catch you on the next one.